As I drove to work, I thought again about the conversation my wife had initiated last night during dinner. This wasn't the first time it had come up, but the frequency of these conversations seemed to be increasing, and I wasn't exactly sure why. I didn't understand why this discussion kept resurfacing and why it was important to my wife. She wanted me to tell her again how many women I had slept with before we became exclusive. She wanted to know if I fantasized about past women or thought about them when we were making love. Obviously, the only answer I could give to that question was a resounding hell no. My wife and I had been married for 5 years, and although it might not have been a perfect marriage, I would rate it very high in terms of trust, respect, love, sex, and friendship, in short, all the things I deemed important in a relationship. I thought my wife felt the same way, and I truly believed we were living the dream: decent income from enjoyable jobs, a good marriage, a nice house in a good location, and enough money and leisure time to go on vacations, enjoy good wine, food, and entertainment. My name is William Harrison, but my friends call me Billy. My wife's name is Molly. I'm a 5 feet 11 inches blonde-haired, blue-eyed male of Nordic descent, although I have enough Irish in me to fuel my occasional explosive anger. That has been under control since my high school days, having learned through multiple fights that it's better to use words than fists. I'm in pretty decent shape, having grown up playing soccer and hockey year-round and spending a lot of time in my basement lifting weights. I still jog, play in an adult soccer league, and enjoy some pond hockey. My wife Molly has always had a natural sex appeal, with sparkling eyes, perfect skin, and lips that draw you in when she smiles or talks. She has an easy way of making people feel comfortable and can get them to talk about virtually anything. She shows friends and coworkers how important they are to her by being a good listener and not judging them. Sometimes, this can border on flirting or being too open and comfortable, but it's never been an issue for me. She has a knack for stopping conversations before questionable behavior lines are crossed. Molly attracts plenty of attention, not just because of her sex appeal and bubbly personality, but also due to her enviable figure. She is 5 feet 7 inches tall, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and an amazing physique. Perhaps the crowning achievement is her perfectly shaped, firm legs. She spends 4 to 5 nights a week at the gym to keep herself toned, and it's her main source of enjoyment outside of work. I often told her that I had to resist the urge to grope her every time she walked by, and she had no problem with that. When I really thought about it, Molly seemed to have the perfect personality, at least perfect for me. She had one sometimes annoying fault that occasionally led to emotional discussions between us but rarely escalated into a fight. The problem was that once Molly made up her mind about something, she wouldn't let go of her decision. She believed she was right, especially in situations that lacked scientific or black and white data. This made her particularly stubborn on some issues, and I typically couldn't change her mind once it was made up. We had both married right out of college and had exclusively dated for the last 2 years of college. So it's fair to say that Molly hadn't experienced a myriad of different sexual partners before we got married. On the other hand, I had gone pretty wild during my senior year, the summer of high school, and the first 2 years of college, betting as many women as possible. I felt fortunate that one of my first sexual partners was an older, divorced woman who loved sex and had a lot of experience with it. She taught me many things about pleasing a woman and what really works in getting a woman to orgasm. Thanks to her, I felt very comfortable ensuring I was pleasing the woman first, only taking my relief when I had made the experience special for them. I had explained this to Molly when she asked how I knew how to please her and give her such pleasure. She was thankful for what the long list of women had taught me, but was jealous that she had missed out on different partners and sexual experiences. In our professional lives, I was a mechanical engineer at Abbott Labs, helping design and test various injection-molded components used in medical devices such as ventilators, pumps, and respirators. I liked the job as it was challenging but not overly stressful, and it afforded me enough money and leisure time to pursue other hobbies. My latest hobby was gutting and restoring a 2005 Winnebago B-Class RV that Molly and I could take on week-long trips up the north shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota or to the mountains and the ocean. There were no limits to the great choices. Molly was a CPA with a good job at one of the top 5 national accounting and consulting firms. The job had good pay, wasn't overly stressful, and included some travel. This sometimes involved accompanying a junior CPA on company audits to ensure they were covering all the bases correctly and that they were trained in the company's corporate way of providing customers with good service and insightful reporting. Molly had been on a few trips in the last month with a new, young employee named Andrew, who had just graduated from school and was beginning his 3-year stint to qualify for the CPA designation. Molly had once mentioned how hot, confident, and outgoing he was after their first trip, but she hadn't said much about him since then. Our life continued with me spending more and more time on the RV. As I got closer to completion, my excitement to hit the road with Molly increased. I did notice that Molly wasn't as outwardly excited about the whole thing, which somewhat concerned me, but I figured that after 1 or 2 shorter road trips, she would love it. I also noticed that Molly wasn't quite as bubbly, outgoing, and open in her communication and relationship with me. The sex was still great and hadn't diminished. A few times in the last few weeks, when Molly came home late from work, she had practically ripped my clothes off and dragged me into bed. The last time this happened, I noticed her panties were wet when we got undressed, and I could tell something was really making her incredibly horny. After one of these intense love-making sessions that had occurred right after work, I went down to start making us dinner while Molly jumped into the shower. I decided that things had been off in a few ways in the last few weeks, and I was going to ask Molly about it when she came down to eat. Molly sat under the hot water in the shower and felt great about the lovemaking she and I had just shared. However, a twinge of guilt and apprehension also came over her. She had been going to lunches and the occasional happy hour with her coworker Andrew, and most recently, she had allowed him to talk her into going to dinner and dancing. She knew this was pushing boundaries farther than she should be allowing, and their conversations were getting more flirtatious, crossing the line of what a married woman should permit. Even here, she was kidding herself. She was obsessed with this secret liaison and the idea of sex with a different man. She knew she was very physically attracted to him and had decided last week to have sex with him. I deserve this, and it's going to help me get this obsession out of my mind and get me back on track in my marriage, she thought. Billy had had a ton of sexual partners, granted all before they decided to be exclusive, and she knew he would never cheat on her and she would never cheat on him. But she had made up her mind to have one weekend of sex with Andrew and was trying to figure out how to discuss it with Billy. She loved him so much and never wanted to hurt him, so she would never do anything behind his back. But she reasoned that this was only sex, only one time, and if Billy loved her as much as she knew he did, he would allow this, and they would get past it and be stronger than before. She only hoped she wasn't kidding herself, but her mind was made up. When Molly came down to the kitchen, I had made shrimp salads, some cornbread, and poured a couple of glasses of wine. When she sat down, I said, "Molly, we need to talk about something, and I'm not sure how to start." "Billy, just go ahead and say what's on your mind. I love you, you love me, and we can tell each other anything. I also need to talk to you, but why don't you start?" "Oh, Molly, that sounds a bit ominous. How many marriages begin with the 'we need to talk' opener?" "Don't be silly, Billy. This isn't anything bad. This is something that will be good for me, and I'll make it really good for you too." "Well, I'm not sure how to say this or what I'm trying to ask, but Molly, something is off with us. You haven't been as open and loving in the last several weeks as we normally are." "Man, Billy, did you forget about the incredible lovemaking we just had?" "Molly, I'm not talking about that. But since you bring it up, what made you so incredibly horny that you almost tore my clothes off?" Molly instantly got a bit tense, and a look of concern and guilt crossed her face. "Well, Billy, if you don't like me being that horny for you, then maybe it's your problem and not mine." I instantly noticed the defensive attitude and called her on it. "Molly, I see your look of concern and guilt, and your defensive attitude is obvious. Can't you see it? Can you please tell me what is really going on? Do I have something to be concerned about with you?" Molly looked down, realizing that she had let the conversation get off on the wrong foot and needed to regain control to have a constructive discussion with a positive outcome. "Billy, I'm sorry, that isn't what I meant to say. I do need to tell you what's going on. I need you to know and remember that I love you and our life more than anything else. What we have is precious, and I am so in love with you. So please remember that as we talk." "Molly, now you've really got me worried. Are you having an affair? Are you cheating on me?" "Billy, how dare you say that? You know I would never cheat on you. I respect you too much. But I do want to talk with you about something, and I need you to listen to me and hear what I'm saying. When I'm done, you can ask me any questions and we can discuss it, okay? Honey, again, I'm going to remind you that I love only you and want only you. I want to have kids with you, grow old with you, and always be your partner. What I'm going to tell you might be hard, but please listen to it all. Do you remember me talking about Andrew, my coworker that I took a few trips with? Well, I've also been having lunch with him, and we've gone to happy hour and even to dinner last week. What the hell, Molly? You said you weren't cheating on me or having an affair, and now you're admitting to one? I am not. Damn it, it isn't an affair, and I have never cheated on you. But you promised to listen. Yes, maybe I have crossed the line by spending time with him and not telling you about it. I certainly don't love him, but we have been flirting, and the things we've been saying and sharing have been full of sexual innuendo. It seemed a bit risque, but still innocent. Only that changed when he told me that he wanted to make love to me. He is 7 years younger than me, extremely fit and handsome, and I have found myself totally infatuated with him. I jumped up in a rage. God damn it, Molly, are you leaving me? Do you love him? Are you sure you haven't already slept with him and this is a way to tell me? Molly cringed at what she had said and how none of it was coming out the way she intended. Billy, no, I haven't slept with him or anyone else. That's actually part of the problem. But please listen. I love only you. Andrew is just a kid. I could never fall in love with him. But you know that I've had only a few sexual experiences before meeting you, and I feel like I was deprived of some of the experiences you got to sample before we were a couple. I kind of feel like I was cheated out of sowing some wild oats before we fell in love. And now, knowing that this young man that I'm incredibly attracted to wants to be with me, I just can't get it out of my mind. Today at work, Andrew and I were flirting back and forth, and that is partially the reason I was so incredibly horny when I got home and needed you to love me. I felt my pulse speed up and my skin flush as I got an incredibly sad and shocked look on my face. This was not what Molly wanted to see. She quickly tried to correct her last statement. Billy, I didn't say that right. I love you, and making love to you is so much more than sex. It is the most fulfilling thing I have ever felt. But I can't get this young man out of my system, and I have decided to have sex with him. I want to take this one-time opportunity to get my last sexual experience with another man before we get more serious about kids, careers, etc. I feel like I deserve this, and I'm asking you to let me have it. I have told you I would never cheat on you, and I respect you. That is all true, and that's why I'm asking you to let me have this. But I guess I'm also telling you that I have made up my mind to do this. Molly was stunned to see me slump in my chair and to see tears fill my eyes and start to slide down my cheek. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. It was only going to be sex, just one time. It wouldn't mean anything. She had to convince me. Billy, I love only you. I only want to be married to you and grow old with you. This is only sex. It isn't love. It's only a one-time hall pass to have a sexual experience and get it out of my mind. I swear I will make this up to you for the rest of our lives if you just let me have this. I will never cheat on you, and that's why I'm begging you to allow me this one-time gift and proof of your love for me. I jumped up from the table, and the hurt and anger in my eyes alarmed Molly. I hope she wondered if she had already done something to hurt our marriage and relationship. How could she possibly equate my approval with being proof of my love? What utter nonsense! Proof of my love for you, Molly? Here is what I am hearing: you have already cheated on me. You are having an emotional relationship with someone from work. You've talked intimately with this person, shared details about us and our marriage, and gone to lunches, dinners, and happy hours together. To me, that's already cheating. Are you sure you haven't slept with him already, and this is how you're trying to tell me you're having an affair? Besides, how will you make it up to me? Have more sex with me, spend time with me, shower me with gifts? Aren't you supposed to be doing that right now? Billy, stop. It isn't an affair, and no, I haven't slept with him. But I will admit that I kissed him a few times after happy hours. Maybe it was the alcohol, but I have to admit the thrill of someone different turned me on. This is going to be a one-time sexual experience, not an affair. I'll never love him and I'll always love only you, but I feel like I need this. If you love me as much as I thought you did, you would give me this. Billy, it's only sex. It's not love. It doesn't mean anything, but I can't get it out of my mind. I feel I need this. I don't know right now what I will do, but I will make it up to you. Molly, I can't believe you can even ask me this. You have already disrespected me by having an emotional and sexually oriented relationship with this guy. You've already cheated on me by talking about sex and what you want to do with each other. You told me you kissed him, and to me, that's as intimate as if you had slept with him. I guess I also can't believe how naive I have been. I thought you loved me as much as I loved you, but I would never hurt you like you just hurt me. I don't even know if you understand how much you have already hurt our relationship and marriage. I thought I could always count on you and trust you, and now you've thrown that feeling out the window. Billy, stop. Quit being so dramatic. I do love you and only you. You can trust me, and that's why I'm telling you this. You shouldn't be hurt. This is just about me, not about us. It's just meaningless sex, okay? Molly, then maybe I'll go find myself some meaningless sex too, and you can see if you still believe that. With that, Billy stood up, grabbed his keys, and walked to the door. Billy, goddammit, grow up and come back here. This isn't a bad thing. This is going to make me better after this and allow me to give you more love and attention in our future than I ever have. Screwing a man who is not your husband will make you better. Holy moly, you are really delusional right now. I don't know how you can believe what you're trying to sell. I don't know how you can say you love me and then treat me like I'm just supposed to suck up your infidelity and get over it. Well, guess what? I will never get over it if you go ahead with this. We are over. Do you understand that? With that, I started to cry and ran to the door, out to my car, and was backing out of the driveway before Molly got to the door and called out to me. Billy, no, please come back and let me show you how much I love you. We can get past this. Billy, it will be good for me, and I'll make it so good for you. All I could do was look at her with extreme sadness and pain through my teary eyes as I drove off into the night. It will be good for me? What the hell? This is unbelievable. God, what do I do now? Molly sat stunned, depressed, and now worried. God, how did I screw that up so badly? Why doesn't he understand how much I need this and that it won't do anything negative to our love and relationship? But deep down, she knew that it already had. They had never had a fight like this. Billy had never walked out on her, had never questioned her love for him, and now she questioned his love for her. She didn't want to admit that she had already done damage, maybe major damage, to her marriage, but she had also already agreed that this Saturday Andrew would pick her up, take her to brunch, and then they would check into the Hilton and have sex all afternoon. They would then go out to dinner and dancing and come back for more sex, likely Saturday night and hopefully Sunday. She planned on having as much sex with him as she could before she came back Sunday night and dedicated herself to her marriage and to Billy. Certainly he will get over this. I know he is hurt right now, and I really didn't explain this very well, but it was so wrong of him to accuse me of already having an affair and being so angry at what I felt I deserved and needed. Her mind was made up, and she was convinced that Billy would get over this and they would move forward together to an even better relationship in the future. After 2 hours with no word from Billy, she started to get really concerned. He was not in a good mental state when he left. She thought for sure he would call her and they could make up, and he would come home so she could show him her love for him. But with no call and no text, she tried calling him. He didn't pick up, so she left him a voicemail. Billy, I am sorry that you took this so dramatically and that this hurt you. Please don't be hurt. I love only you and want to be with you forever. This isn't about you and me. This is just me getting something that I never got in my past and working this out of my system. Please understand and come back to me. She got ready for bed, checked her phone again, and saw no response from Billy. She lay down on their bed and drifted into a fitful sleep. I cried as I drove over to the Hilton in the next suburb and checked in for the night. Then I ended up spending way too much time in the hotel bar, getting hammered and falling into bed later that night. I ignored the calls and voicemail from Molly, still shocked and in disbelief that she thought this was okay and that she could profess her love for me but still insist on having sex outside of our wedding vows. I knew how incredibly stubborn she could be when she made up her mind, but this wasn't one of those times when I could acquiesce and let it go. This was a marriage-ending mistake, and I had to convince her of that before it was too late. But was it already too late? Even if I convinced her to say no this time, how long would it be before she went ahead and did it without telling me, going behind my back? That would for sure be the end of any trust, respect, in our marriage. But by the same token, I knew that if I let her do this, I would never feel about her the same way again. And if I said yes, how long would it be before she met another guy that she just had to get out of her system? And would she, at some point, resent me for letting another man take her and not standing up and demanding that she belonged to only me? There were no good options, and I started to feel that this was already the beginning of the end. I finally decided that my only hope and option was to talk her out of this and get her to go to counseling with me to see if we could get to the bottom of what was driving this need for her to have sex with another man. Wednesday morning, Molly woke up, moved over to cuddle with Billy, and gasped as she realized he hadn't slept in their bed. She figured maybe he was in the guest bedroom or on the couch, but after looking all around the house and seeing that his car was still gone, she figured he never came home. That had her extremely upset. She went to her phone and saw there was no text or voicemail. She called him, and he didn't answer. But after she hung up, she got a text back, "Molly, I'll be home at 7 p.m. tonight. Please go ahead and eat before I get there. We have to talk more about this and have a serious discussion about our future together." Molly looked at the message and first thought, "God, Billy, quit being so damn dramatic." She was pissed, but then she started to worry about the message. Billy was telling her that maybe they didn't have a future together, which was the very last thing she ever wanted. She loved him and wanted to be with him. Why couldn't he understand that? She would have to make him understand tonight. Molly went to work, and as soon as she sat at her desk, Andrew approached her and said, "Good morning, sexy. You look good enough to kiss and cuddle, and I hope to be doing just that this Saturday. Are we still on? Did you tell your husband? Should I be worried?" "Andrew, let me worry about Billy. He wouldn't hurt a fly. He isn't sold on the idea, but he'll be okay. And yes, we are still on for Saturday, and I get very excited thinking about it." When he left, her desk looked and said, "That being said," Molly texted Billy again, "Billy, are you okay? Please know that I only love you. I only want you, and my future with you is going to be better and better." After an hour, she received a sarcastic, short 2-word response, "Yes, sure." She was getting mad at how immature Billy was being about this whole thing, but she was also sad at how much this was hurting him. She had convinced herself that she would more than make this up to him, and he would be so happy with the lovemaking and attention she would give him that, in no time at all, things would be at least as good as they had been, if not better. On Wednesday, I called in sick from work, and after I knew Molly had left, I went back to her house, got my tools, and finished up some of the details on the RV. I got the solar panel mounted and functioning, finished all the electrical and Wi-Fi connections, got a new cassette for the toilet, filled up the tanks with water, and basically knew that I could finish the cabinetry on Thursday and it would be road ready. The work kept my mind off the constant pain and sorrow I was living with. With 2 hours left until Molly returned, I did some research on the internet about divorce, finances, and counselors, and felt that I had a preliminary set of plans for either contingency that I needed to take. I then went around the house, made a list of everything that was mine that I cared about, and then had just enough time to head to the bank. At the bank, I canceled our joint credit card and opened one in my name only. I canceled our joint checking account and opened one in my name only. I prepaid the mortgage on the house for the next 2 months out of our joint account and then split the balance with a check cut to her for 50% and my 50% going into my savings account. I then went to a pub that I liked and had a craft beer and a burger and got ready for our discussion at home. Molly came home about 6 p.m. and saw that Billy was still not home. She couldn't tell if he had been home or not. She made herself a sandwich and tried to decide how to have a more positive discussion with Billy this time around. When Billy came in, she ran up to him, gave him a huge kiss on the lips, and hugged him for a long time, admonishing him for leaving. "Billy, damn it, don't ever leave like that and not let me know you were okay. I know you were hurting, but I was so worried about you and needed to know you were okay. Billy, I love you. Only you. I'll always love only you. You don't have to be hurting, Billy. You and I are solid and together and always will be. So you knew that I was hurting really and you love only me? I wish that were true, Molly, but I am no longer very sure of that. A week ago, I would never have believed you could ask me for what you are now wanting me to approve, having an affair outside of our marriage and asking me to accept it and then continue as we were before. It is inconceivable to me that you can tell me you love me and that we will always be together, and then ask for permission to commit adultery. Billy, don't you dare say that I don't love you. It isn't cheating if you approve and it's only sex and only one time. Quit being so damn dramatic and immature. Molly, you want to hear about drama and being immature? I'm looking at the woman I loved as if she has been possessed by someone or something I don't know. I'm looking at her trying to convince me that she loves me and that I should accept her having sex with another man for a weekend and just go back to being the same couple and partners we were before. But I know that will never happen. We will never be like we were before. How the hell would you feel, Molly, if I went out and got laid by someone else and told you it was just sex? That isn't fair, and you know it. Billy, you've had dozens of women and all kinds of sexual experiences in your past, and I didn't get to have any of that. And to answer you, no, if you went out and had sex with someone, then I would kick you out, and I wouldn't know if I could forgive you. And why should that be so different for me? Why shouldn't I kick you out, and why do you think I can forgive you? Molly, I can't believe you're proposing this. By the way, have you agreed to this already? Did you talk to your lover today and assure him that you'd be screwing him before he knew it? Damn you, Billy, why do you have to twist this? He isn't my love. At most, he will be a one-time sex experience. And yes, I did talk to him. This Saturday, he is picking me up in the morning, and I'll be back Sunday evening. On Monday, I will rock your world and be the sexiest, most loving wife you could possibly hope for. You already were that, but you won't be that ever again if you go through with this. Molly gasped at that, recoiled back to the kitchen, and sat in a chair. She looked at Billy with pleading in her voice and eyes. Billy, please know that I love you so much. Please, please don't let this hurt our marriage, our partnership. You are my husband now and always, my lover, my best friend, the one I want to father our children. You are my everything. God, Molly, you are just not at all on the same planet I am. If all that were true, you would never consider what you are telling me you are going to do this Saturday. This conversation is getting us nowhere. I'm telling you, if you go through with this, we're done. I'll be back on Friday night. Let's spend the night together, making love and enjoying each other while we can. Billy, don't walk out on me again. We need to get through this. Please. Friday night, Molly. I'll bring dinner around 7 p.m. What time is Andrew picking you up Saturday morning? I'll tell him 11 a.m., but you don't have to leave. I would like you to meet him. Jesus, Molly, meet him? If I see him, I will literally kick the living hell out of him. Why would I possibly want to meet the a-hole who is trying to destroy our marriage? Think hard about this before we meet on Friday. Billy, no, wait. Please don't leave like this. Tell me you're okay, that this isn't going to hurt us. Molly, I will never be okay with you having sex with anyone other than your husband. If you want to have sex with anyone else, get a divorce and screw every man on the planet. Hell, screw the Martians. I would not stop you. Your so-called little request today has already hurt us more than you seem to comprehend. I'll make this one promise to you. If you cancel this cheating affair and tell him you don't want to see him now or ever again, and if you promise to go to counseling with me to work on our relationship, then maybe we will be okay. If not, then I know we're finished. Tell me your answer on Friday night and think hard about what you are doing to us. Billy, don't give me ultimatums and don't walk out on me. Please, we will be all right, maybe even better after this. Yeah, right, pigs are flying, I said, my words dripping with sarcasm. I turned and walked out the door, turned off the voice recorder, and headed back to the Hilton. I booked a room for Wednesday and Thursday night. Then I called my boss and told him I had a family emergency and needed to take the rest of the week off, which he agreed to, though only reluctantly when I wouldn't tell him the nature of my emergency. Molly slumped over and put her head on the table after Billy left. How could he be so damn stubborn about this? She was sure he would never leave her, but had they already done severe damage to their relationship? If that was the case, would going ahead with her plans make it any worse? She was committed to the idea of being with Andrew. Her longing and lust for a sexual tryst with him were so obsessive she couldn't seem to let it go. She decided she would compromise with Billy by telling him she was going ahead with the weekend but would gladly attend and participate in marriage counseling with anyone he chose. After that, she dragged herself up to bed and lay there with her thoughts racing. Billy was her world, and this was what she was doing to him. The pain and anger were as hard on her now as they were on him. Did she really need this? But she felt trapped. She had already decided she did need this and had already committed. She was convinced that Billy's arguments were unreasonable. He had had dozens of women and could look back on all those times when he was feeling restless or bored in the marriage, but she had never had that. This was just sex, just one time, and just for her. He needed to get over himself and move past this. On Thursday, after Molly left for work, I returned to the house and started moving all the things I wanted but that Molly wouldn't notice missing into my RV. I also made a trip to the thrift store with all of the clothes that I never wore and wouldn't miss. I brought all of the tools, sports equipment, and recreational items that I just didn't have room for over to my best friend Tom's house. I also gave him a couple of the pen and ink drawings that my uncle had done, knowing Tom would appreciate them. We then sat down for a beer, and I told him what was up and what my options were. Tom looked at me with an incredulous expression and said, "Billy, you've got to be kidding me. No way would Molly do that to you. I've never seen a woman so in love with a man as Molly is with you. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Maybe she has a concussion or something is wrong with her. I'm not sure of anything. I don't know what is up or down, right or wrong. My whole world has been blown up in the course of 1 week, and it's as if Molly is another person. I just don't get it, but I know that the love I have for her is already under attack and gets weaker with every pitiful excuse she makes for why this will be so good for our marriage. She has gone crazy. Can't you forgive and forget, get some counseling, and get over it? Hell no. I've told her we can do that if she doesn't screw the guy, but if she does, I don't see any way back from that. I've tried talking her out of it. Now I'm going to see if I can give her so many orgasms and such great sex Friday night that she will listen to reason. It's really my last chance at this. Good luck, man. Let me know if I can do anything to help. I mean, not with the orgasms, but anything to ease your pain and help you out. I hate to see you guys hurting like this. You were my role model, showing that a strong and healthy marriage is possible. Well, I guess both our bubbles have been popped because I could never see this coming in 100 years. I'm doing everything I can not to go beat the living hell out of the guy. Well, Billy, if nothing else, and if worst comes to worst, let me know and I will definitely help you out with that payback, okay? I'll think about it. Well, take care. By the way, I'm getting a new phone and number and I'll text it to you so we can keep in touch later. Keep calm and hang in there. I then drove to the Verizon store, got a new phone and number, and changed our current plan to Molly's name only. Finally, I went back home, took the RV for a maiden test run, and was pleased with the results. I finished up the cabinetry, got new license tags and insurance, and was ready to go. I went into our home computer, cleared out all of my personal emails and documents, and basically rid the office of any of my past life. I composed an email to all of our family, friends, relatives, and coworkers to explain Molly's actions and my response. Basically, if I couldn't talk her out of this, I would explain to them that she decided to have an affair. She could use the lame excuse that it was only sex outside of our marriage and that she asked me to approve it. Although I had begged her not to and told her it would end the marriage, she went ahead anyway. I prayed to God I would never have to send this, but if worst came to worst, I wanted to make sure people understood what had really happened. I also attached the voice recording from the other evening. On Friday, I went ahead with a discussion with a divorce lawyer and was told that, generally, with their incomes being comparable and with no kids, it would basically be a 50-50 split of all assets. The only thing that was a bit uncertain was whether she would get half of my 401k plan, which I had contributed heavily to and had over $200,000 in tax-deferred accounts. She was on a defined pension plan, so it was hard to predict how that would factor into the divorce. I decided that I had worked hard for that money, and instead of losing 50% of it to a cheating wife, I would take the 40% tax hit and pull the money out before any divorce happened. I would wait until the weekend was over, as I still hoped I might persuade Molly to wake up and stop this nightmare. I had done what I could, and as Friday approached, I felt our future, our marriage, and my love for her were all in Molly's hands, and I could only pray she would make the right choice. I bought some shrimp, swordfish, and a Caesar salad on the way to the house and started up the grill. I put a couple of bottles of white wine on ice, mixed up a batch of gin and tonics, and waited for Molly to get home from work. She was excited to come in and see me in the kitchen preparing our meal. "Thank God you came home, Billy. I missed you so much, and I hate it when you aren't home with me. You have to promise me to quit doing that. You love me, I love you, we need to be together." With that, she approached him and was a bit surprised and very happy when he took her into his arms and gave her a long, tender French kiss. "Molly, why don't you go upstairs, take a shower, and put on something sexy? Here, bring a gin and tonic up with you to start this celebration, and as soon as you come back down, I'll get the food on the grill and we'll enjoy a nice dinner. Maybe it will be the last dinner, but tonight is a celebration of what our marriage has been." "Billy, quit talking like that. You upset me when you question our marriage. I am starting to get annoyed. I have told you over and over that I love only you and will always love only you, and that this isn't something about you. It's strictly something about me that I need to get out of my system. Molly, we've been over this. Please, let's set that conversation aside for now. Drink your gin and tonic, shower, and we can eat and get on to the enjoyable part of our evening. Okay, mister. But I expect you to stick around tonight and not leave me in a state of anger or worrying if you are okay or not. I'll be back wearing something that shows you how much I appreciate you and want you forever." With that, Molly went upstairs and hopped in the shower. When she came back down and I turned to greet her, I couldn't help but let out a gasp, or was it a moan? Molly wore a French-made outfit with a little white cap and a white blouse, low-cut enough to show most of her assets and her midriff. She had on black thigh-high silk nylons, a short skirt that stopped well before the top of her nylons, and 4-inch stilettos. My God, Molly, you're incredibly sexy, and you look absolutely stunning. Well, I want you to get just a peek of what our next several weeks will be because I bought a variety of outfits that you're going to enjoy just as much as this one. Now let's get that food on the grill. I am hungry, but I really want to finish and get to dessert." She gave him a wink. We rushed through dinner, finishing off the gin and tonics and drinking 3/4 of the first bottle of wine. When I couldn't wait any longer, I lifted her into my arms, carried her upstairs, and laid her on the bed. She quickly reached for my belt and zipper, but I stopped her. "Tonight is for you, Molly. I am going to worship your body and make our lovemaking tonight so memorable that you will understand how good we are together and why we should only belong to each other. We do belong only to each other, honey, and that will never change. Please, just make love to me tonight and let's get beyond the stress of the last few days and submit our love for each other." We made love that night. Once she was done, she gasped at how totally satisfied and spent she was and drifted off to sleep. When Molly woke up, it was 8:30 a.m., and she knew it was time to get up and start getting ready. Andrew would pick her up at 11 o'clock. She had a mixture of guilt, anxiety, and lust when she thought about this. After last night's lovemaking, she wondered for a minute what the hell she was doing. How could anything be better than that? But her stubborn mind felt she was committed to this and had to follow through. I was already up, and she could hear me in the kitchen and smell bacon, eggs, and coffee. She put on a robe and came down to the kitchen to see me. "Billy, last night was incredible, and that is what I see in our future. I love you so much, and thank you for last night." I didn't respond but finished up the eggs and asked Molly if she wanted anything. "I'd better not eat now, Billy, but thanks. I need to get ready. Andrew and I are going out at 11 o'clock, so I'm going to save my appetite for that. I need to run to the bathroom, shower, and get ready. Please stay here so we can hug and kiss goodbye for the weekend. Molly, I would not beg you anymore. I would just ask you this for the last time. Are you sure you want to go ahead and have sex with a man who is not your husband? Billy, stop. This is just a one-time thing. It changes nothing about my love for you and your love for me." I just looked at her in pain and sorrow and shook my head, saying, "I won't leave until I tell you goodbye." Molly flinched at his pain and at the way he said it, it seemed more like a parting, an ending, and she shuddered at the thought. Billy, I love you, and this is going to be okay. You'll see. This just needs to get out of my system. Never forget that you and I will be together forever, and we will be better and stronger in the future. Yeah, right, Molly. I am so incredibly sad that you can even believe that. She flushed at my comment, and tears started to come to her eyes as she turned and ran to the bathroom. How could he keep being so dramatic and not just get past this? Let her have this one-time fling, and then they could move on with their lives, and she would spend her life dedicated to making it up to him for this gift he was allowing her to have. My God, she thought, this has changed Billy, and I'm going to have to really work to take his pain away. I know he'll come around. He loves me so much and has always given me what I want and need, and this will be no different. She showered and applied her makeup, taking care to wear a sexy but not over-the-top dress, thigh-high stockings, and heels. When she came down with her weekend bag, it was already 10:30, and her time was short. When I looked at her dress to meet another man, it was as if she had plunged a knife into my heart. Billy, you're okay, right? You know how much I love you, don't you? And you love me, don't you? Didn't last night show you how we can get past this and how great our life will continue to be? Molly, I wanted last night to be very special for both of us. It was a celebration of the marriage we had, and I wanted our last time together to be a memory that we could both carry for the rest of our lives. Billy, God damn it, don't say our last night together. That is cruel, and you're trying to make me feel guilty for one meaningless weekend of sex that I need to get out of my system. Of course, we will be together, and we will be better than ever. She moved to kiss and hug me, but I turned away and held her back. I looked into her eyes and said, Molly, our night is over. You chose a weekend of meaningless sex over your husband. These kisses don't matter anymore. Billy, just stop it. It's not like that. This is a one-time thing, and I deserve this. You have history with dozens of women that you can fantasize about, and I have nothing. I have this strong physical need to have sex with this man and get it out of my system. It isn't love. It says nothing about our relationship or how much I love you. Yes, Molly, this is one and done. Before Molly could respond, they heard a car pull into the driveway and honk. Billy, you need to quit all of this drama. Damn it, I'm going to be back to you on Sunday night, and you will still be my only love and my life partner. The horn honked again, and Molly said, Should I let Andrew in and introduce him to you so that you realize he is just a kid who I am physically attracted to and not a threat to the love I have for you? I looked at her with pain and anger, took a deep breath, and with the calmest voice I could manage said, Don't even think of letting him in here, or I'll break his nose, his jaw, and crush his balls. I'll rip off his penis and shove it down his throat. I would enjoy every second of him screaming in pain. Molly shrank back in shock. She had never seen me approach anger like this before, anger that could lead me to lose control and be violent. Please, Billy, please let this go. Let me have this one time, and I'll be back home to love you forever. She picked up her bag and walked to the door, turning to give me a smile, but the pain and sorrow on my face gave her a major jolt of fear for what I might do to myself and guilt for the pain she was causing me. She blew me a kiss, smiled, and said, Billy, Sunday night and beyond, I will be the best wife and partner you could possibly hope for. I love you. Goodbye. Molly stood there for a second, thought something over, and then walked out the door. I sat in a kitchen chair and cried. I felt I had done what I could to stop this marriage-ending affair, but Molly seemed to be in a separate reality of her own, rationalizing that this would be good for us and something she had to have for herself. After 30 minutes of crying, I got up and started to move everything on my list of belongings to the RV. I started in the bedroom and noticed that Molly had left her wedding rings in the bowl on top of her dresser. I put them in my pocket as my sorrow began to turn to anger and grew stronger. 2 hours later, I had taken all of the things that were important to me. The paintings, sketches, and sculptures my uncle had bequeathed to me were carefully wrapped, boxed, and put under the RV's queen-size bed. All the clothes I was going to bring didn't fit, so I did another quick sort and threw the rejects in the garbage can in the garage. I walked around the house with my anger and pain seething. I saw our wedding album with 40 pictures from our wedding 5 years earlier. Looking at the album used to give me joy and a sense of calm and peace, but now it only intensified my pain and made me angrier. I ran to the garage, grabbed a box cutter from my leftover tools, and ran back into the house. On every page of photos, I cut a deep slice through the plastic and the picture. On several of them, I removed the portion of the photo that held our faces and threw them into the fireplace. I went over to the desk and wrote my final letter to Molly, with tears streaming down my face and landing on the letter. I finished, put the letter and the check for Molly, her half of the joint savings and checking accounts, into an envelope, and wrote her name on the outside. I set the photo album and the letter on the kitchen table and took off my wedding ring, setting it on top of the letter. Finally, I set up the email I had composed to all of our friends, relatives, and contacts, with a scheduled mailing date of Monday at 9 a.m. I would be long gone by then. I turned and walked out the door, got into my RV, and drove away from my old life. It was now mid-Saturday afternoon, and Molly and Andrew had enjoyed brunch together. They were checked into the hotel that Andrew had booked for Saturday and Sunday night, hoping he could convince her to stay over both nights, but at least avoid the Sunday checkout time. They slowly undressed and lay in bed, and Molly felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she found herself with another man. He gently brought her to the bed, kissed her a few times, and then moved forward with urgency. She softly reminded him, "Relax, Andrew, we have plenty of time today and tomorrow to enjoy this. Let's take it slow." "Molly, that's not really my thing," he replied, somewhat dismissively. He then hurriedly tried to initiate intimacy. The experience was far from what Molly had imagined, leaving her feeling unsatisfied and disconnected. The moment ended abruptly, and Andrew quickly excused himself to the bathroom, promising to bring her a washcloth. As she lay there, staring at the ceiling, Molly couldn't help but feel a deep sense of regret. She wondered why she had made choices that brought her to this point, realizing that what she had hoped would be meaningful had turned out to be anything but. She grabbed her cell phone from the side table of the bed and quickly composed a text to Billy. "Billy, my love, please know that I love only you. Please tell me that you are okay and that you love me too. I can't wait until I see you again." Andrew came back out, and being young, he was ready to go again. They had sex 3 times that afternoon, and although she finally had a climax the 3rd time, it was actually her own effort. They got up, got dressed, and went out to dinner. Dinner was awkward, with small talk and no real connection, either physically or mentally, between them. The magic she thought she felt before was gone. They did some dancing after dinner, but it was like dancing with her brother or uncle. The physical attraction she had convinced herself was so strong had disappeared. Although Andrew wanted to go back to the room quickly, she kept ordering drinks and putting him off until both of them were very drunk and even had trouble negotiating their way back to the room. When they got there, she quickly stripped off her clothes, collapsed onto the bed, turned away from Andrew, and went to sleep. In the morning, she woke up with a hangover and could feel Andrew snoring in bed beside her. She decided that the damage of the weekend was already done, so she should give it one good try again to see if she could have any memorable sex with the young man. She attempted to start the morning by surprising Billy with affection, hoping it would lead to something special between them in bed. Andrew appreciated the gesture but abruptly ended it without any warning, leaving her feeling uncomfortable. She moved closer to him and asked, "How did you like that, baby?" But when she leaned in for a kiss, he recoiled, saying, "Oh, that's gross. Could you clean up quickly and then come back to bed?" Feeling disheartened, she grabbed her phone and headed to the bathroom, locking the door behind her. In the shower, she scrubbed herself as if trying to wash away her regrets. After drying off, she sat on the edge of the toilet and checked her phone, but there were no responses from Billy. She tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. Desperate, she sent him another text, "Billy, I love you. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay and that we can get through this. This has turned into a meaningless and miserable mistake, and I know now that you're the only one I want forever. I'll be home as soon as I can hug you and tell you how much I love you. Please let me know you're okay." Later, she persuaded Andrew to join her for breakfast. As they were finishing, she said, "Andrew, this was a mistake for me. I only love my husband, and this weekend has shown me that no one can compare to him in my eyes. I'm going to go up to the room, pack my bags, and leave now. I'll get a cab. I don't want to see you again for lunch, happy hour, or dinner, and I would appreciate it if we could avoid each other at work. I'm sorry, but this was just a major mistake. Well, screw you, witch. You're the one who wanted this so badly and talked me into it. Go ahead and run back to your husband and try to forget how great the sex with me was. There are plenty of women better looking than you who would love to get a crack at me. Andrew, you are just a boy, and you don't have a clue how to please a woman. Come out of your delusion. With that, she walked up to the room, packed her things, and left. Molly grabbed a cab and got home around 3 p.m. on Sunday. The first thing she noticed was that the big RV, which had taken up half of her driveway, was gone. Wow, I guess Billy actually got that thing finished, and he must have decided to go for a test drive or an overnight trip. I wish I could have been here for that maiden voyage. I'm bummed out and surprised he didn't wait for me. As she entered the house, she sensed, rather than saw, that something was different. The first physical change she noticed was that the oil painting of the waves crashing onto Moonlight Bay, which Billy's uncle had painted, was no longer hanging above the fireplace. She looked around and saw that many of his other drawings and paintings were gone, as were the sculptures of the bison his uncle had sculpted that had sat on the mantel. "Oh no, Billy, what have you done?" she cried out, even knowing that no one was there to hear it. She pulled out her phone and saw that Billy still had not responded to any of her texts. She called his phone, and when the Verizon voice immediately responded, "This cell phone number is no longer in service," she let out a scream and sank to the floor. "Oh God, no! What have I done? Oh Billy, how could you do this? How could you leave me like this?" She got up, trying to slow the stream of tears and gasps coming out of her body, and moved as quickly as she could to the kitchen. She fell to her knees again as she saw Billy's wedding ring sitting on top of a letter to her, which lay on top of their wedding album. She sank into a chair, picked up the ring, and stared at it, unable to believe what was happening and what this all meant. She ripped open the letter and started to wail as she tried to read it. "Molly, as you can guess, this is my final goodbye to you. Perhaps I am a coward, but I couldn't trust myself to face you after you walked away from me and our marriage. I found your wedding rings in the bowl on your dresser and knew it was a perfect symbol for how you left our marriage behind. You left knowing that if you wore the rings, you would have to admit you were cheating, and it would ruin your idea of a free pass for the weekend. I think you believed without a doubt that you could screw somebody else and come back to me and have our marriage be the same as it always was. I honestly don't know what you were thinking and how you could possibly think it was going to be okay to break our wedding vows, humiliate and disrespect me in our marriage, and think it was just a meaningless, harmless little weekend sex session that shouldn't at all affect how I feel for you. But the reality is it meant everything. It showed me that your love for me, if indeed you really did love me, was nowhere close to my love for you. It was nowhere near what I deserved and what I was naive enough to think I had. You hurt me more than anyone has ever hurt me. You took my love for you, pulled it out of my chest, and stomped on it. You cheated on me the first time you started flirting with your lover at lunch and happy hour. You sealed that cheating when you started kissing him at happy hours and dinners, thinking that was okay. Then you gave my love the death blow when you thought I would be okay with you having a sexual affair. How could you possibly believe that you deserved it and that if I loved you, I would give you this? I don't know how your mind got to that warped idea, and I did everything I could to pull you back from the cliff, but you ignored me. I told you our love, our marriage, our friendship could never be the same, but you called me immature and overly dramatic. I told you that if you stopped this weekend fling right now, before it happened, we could get counseling and work on saving our marriage, but you blew me off. I told you that our last night of incredible lovemaking would be the last time we would ever be together if you went through with your weekend affair, but you chose to ignore me and assumed I would fall into line and be there for you no matter what. I really don't understand how you could ever think I would be okay with this. It's like you really didn't know me at all, and evidently, I didn't know you because I trusted you and would have never thought you could destroy me as you now have. I could have physically stopped you, I guess, but I knew that if I did, you would grow to resent me and our marriage would suffer a slow, decaying death. I knew you were kidding yourself if you thought this was a one-time thing. You opened Pandora's box. If the sex was bad, how long would it be until you found another sexual attraction you just had to get out of your system? If the sex was good, how long would it be before you had to have it again? You likely wouldn't have even told me about the next times you cheated, after seeing what we are going through now, but I had no doubt that the next times would come and your cheating would continue. I guess we will never know. I could never be in a relationship without trust, and now my trust in you has been completely broken. I couldn't love you again, wondering if you were thinking about me or fantasizing about some other lover when we made love. As soon as you walked out the door, you took all of the love, respect, trust, and friendship you claimed to have for me and washed it down the drain. I could never forgive you for that, trust you again, or even be friends with you. I have to cut you out of my life just like you cut my love out of my chest. A couple of practical things to tell you. I have split up all of our assets and paid the mortgage for the next 2 months. Your 50% of our joint accounts is the check I enclosed in this envelope. I have canceled our Verizon joint account, so as of Monday, you will have to get your own. I have canceled our insurance and joint credit cards. You will have to get your own. I have taken my name off the mortgage and written a quitclaim deed to you, putting the house in your name. You can do what you want with it, sell it or live there. It doesn't matter to me as it is not my home anymore, and I'll never be back. I sold my car, and as you can see, I have left in the RV. Sometime down the road, I will pawn your wedding rings for gas money, and at least they will have served some purpose. I should tell you about a couple of things I did in my anger and pain to spite you in your destruction of my love. As you can see, I took a box cutter to the wedding album, and you'll see some pieces of the photos sitting in the fireplace. Go ahead and burn them, it's as fitting a cremation of our marriage as any. I also have sent an email to all our friends, relatives, co-workers, and contacts telling them about your decision to cheat on me and my decision that I can't tolerate that and am leaving you. You have a day or two to get your story together on how you want to spin it, but maybe you can start your new life by taking responsibility for what you have done. The good news for you is that you now have my permission to screw whoever you want, to have all the sexual experiences or affairs you want. It would be nice if you didn't pick married men because you've already screwed up enough lives, but go ahead and try to find whatever it was you were looking for that caused you to throw us away like yesterday's newspaper. You can divorce me, sell the house, move, do whatever you want. I don't care, and I will leave that all up to you. Should I be lucky enough to find a woman who actually does love me the way I deserve, then perhaps I'll worry about a divorce. I have quit my job, cashed out my 401k, and the only plan I have right now is to never see you again and to take a left out of the driveway when I leave. Other than that, I guess I'll forge out a new life and hope to leave your memory in the rearview mirror. Goodbye, Billy. Molly had to read through the letter several times to really believe this was happening. She could see Billy's tear stains on the sheets as he wrote it. She got up, saw the damage to the wedding album, and could barely make it to the sink before she threw up and nearly blacked out. My God, what have I done? How could I have been so self-centered and stupid? How could I destroy the only man I'll ever really love? I had it all and gave it up for the worst, most pathetic sex and an asshole who only wanted to get in my pants and didn't know what to do when he did. Molly crawled to the couch in the living room, got on it, and curled up into the fetal position, crying herself out before falling asleep. She couldn't believe that she had been so stubborn and so fixated on her lust to try a new sex partner that she hadn't heard or believed all of the warnings and ultimatums Billy had given her. She had destroyed her life in a matter of a few weeks, and she now knew she would pay the price of her betrayal for the rest of her life. Billy ended up driving to the banks of the Mississippi and decided to follow it from Minneapolis-St. Paul down to New Orleans. When he got there, he would decide to take a left or a right. The long driving hours were rough with thoughts of Molly and whether he was doing the right thing, but he decided that he wouldn't make any decisions about that for weeks to come. At this point, he couldn't even see being friends, much less marriage partners. But if his anger left him and if he reached a point where it was more important for him to be with her than without her, he might consider opening a communication dialogue with her. However, he gave it less than a 25% chance of happening, and it would be a long road back. Molly had to endure the humiliation and pain of explaining her irrational state of mind and reasoning about having a sexual fling to her parents, relatives, and friends. She could tell that none of them would ever understand her reasoning or forgive her. She now couldn't understand her reasoning either, much less explain it. She had to admit how horribly she had convinced herself that the fling wouldn't affect them. She had to explain that she hadn't understood until now how it would destroy her marriage and how much it had destroyed her only love. She had to take responsibility for being incredibly self-centered and foolish about the importance of her fidelity, both to Billy and now to herself. She could see how she had lost her family's and friends' respect and how they started to back away from their relationships with her. Molly called Billy's best friend, Tom, weekly, pleading with him to give her Billy's location, his phone number, or any information about him. She begged him to tell Billy that she loved him, had finally understood and taken responsibility for her cheating on their marriage, and would do anything to get him to talk to her again. Tell him I love him, I miss him, I screwed up badly, and I really understand that. I'll do anything to get past this if you will let me try. I'll never divorce him and will remain committed to our marriage vows. I will not date or have any male relationships while we are still married. She waited every week, hoping for a call or response, but it never came. She quit going out with anyone, lived a lonely and solitary life at work and at home, and prayed that something would eventually bring Billy back to her, remaining faithful to their marriage. About a month after Molly's affair, Andrew's doorbell rang. When he answered, a man in a ski mask with a police baton quickly struck him twice in the head and neck until he collapsed. Then, as Andrew lay in pain, the attacker kicked him several times in the crotch. As Andrew lay there, the attacker told him he should learn never to mess with married women, then turned and walked away. As time went on, both Molly and Billy would reflect on what had happened, and neither could ever really answer the question of how she thought it would be okay. 3 years later, Molly was still waiting for Billy, but he never came back. One fine morning, as Molly was about to leave for work, a man came and asked for her name. Once Molly confirmed her name, he handed her an envelope. "You have been served." Molly did not cry or react, she just stood there. She let out a small smile and said, "All the best, Billy. I hope you have a wonderful life." Malcolm James was not the darkest man I ever met, but he was in the top 10. Actually, he wasn't very dark at all, he just seemed that way. Although he wasn't even 6 feet tall, he always left quite an impression. Maybe it was the perpetual snarl on his face or the numerous scars that seemed to have a bluish tinge to them. He was definitely not a man you would want to meet in a dark alley. I was lucky to have him on my side. My name is John Allison. I manage a small company called Divinity Purselling, which packages and distributes large quantities of DVDs, CDs, and other similar products. It is labor-intensive work, and getting people to do it for minimum pay is next to impossible. Don't be fooled by the name, there is nothing divine about it. By making use of several glaring loopholes in federal and state laws, we are able to hire people who appreciate the opportunity, but we are borderline legal at present. My workforce consists mostly of Jamaicans, including Malcolm, with a few Dominicans and Haitians thrown in. Although they all appreciated the work, sometimes they slacked off a bit. It was difficult to keep them all working to their fullest potential until I realized the power of Malcolm James. I watched him carefully for about 2 weeks and then finally made the decision to approach him. He was articulate and spoke with what I thought was a perfect British accent, but what did I know about those accents? He grinned broadly when I offered him the job of shop supervisor. It was, to say the least, a little unnerving. The new job came with a nice raise and, of course, a few fringe benefits that none of the floor workers had. I got the feeling that there was more to him than appeared, but I was not interested enough to ask any questions. Productivity increased almost 30%. I was happy, the company was happy, and Malcolm was happy. He seemed to be where he was meant to be. It was hard to explain. The company was now running smoothly. If things went as planned, we would be able to continue to operate for at least another 18 months until we were closed down for some state or federal violations. This was my 6th similar enterprise in the last 10 years. It paid good money but was not what you would call a career opportunity. I stashed away as much as possible in anticipation of leaner times. The good thing was that I usually had another operation ready to go when one closed down. I don't really remember how I got into this line of work. I was never really a mainstream type of guy. Doing things the normal way was boring and predictable, not what I was ever looking for. My younger brother Bobby was just the opposite. The most important thing in his life was his union job with the local electric company. He always knew where and when his next paycheck was coming from, and he was comfortable with that. I was happy for him but never envious. Bobby and I both married our high school sweethearts. Now, that is boring and not nearly as romantic as it appears to be. Bobby and Cora had twin boys who had just turned 16. My wife Doreen and I had a daughter, Ariel, who had just been accepted at Duke, and a 17-year-old son, Roger, who was trying everything he could to get into a military academy. He wasn't really particular about where he went, but he was determined. Cora worked at one of the local insurance claims companies. They processed claims for over 20 small insurance agencies in the tri-state area. Doreen was never interested in going to work, and I was happy with the way things were. We had enough to live on, and I felt that a comfortable, happy home life was more important to the family than extra money. And that was about it. Life was good in Pleasantville. It wasn't really Pleasantville, but I remembered the name from an old movie and always seemed to relate it to things that were perfect. Life was good, that is, until I decided to run down to the super mall and pick up a few office supplies. I had a girl to do that, but I was always looking for excuses to get out of the office. The shopping went quickly because I knew what I wanted before I even left the office. I don't usually browse. I grab what I need, pay, and go. The Keystone Mall was a 2-story behemoth with an open atrium in the middle. I guess it is an atrium, as I'm not sure the actual word for it. I was sitting at a table in the second-level food court overlooking the first floor when I saw Cora and Doreen coming down the center. Apparently, Cora had taken off work so that she and Doreen could do a little last-minute shopping prior to their mini-girl vacation. After much begging, pleading, and bribing, Bobby and I consented to let Cora and Doreen take a 5-day vacation to an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica near Montego Bay. Bobby and I were not crazy about the idea but finally agreed to it, provided they promised to stay at the resort and not wander about the island unescorted. They would be leaving in 2 days. I was just about to call out and wave to them when something stopped me. They paused in front of a Victoria's Secret shop, not a normal venue for either of them. I sat back down and quietly watched as they entered the store with little hesitation. Interesting, quite interesting. I got a fresh cup of coffee and made myself as comfortable as I could in one of those crappy plastic chairs. It was at least 20 minutes later when they came out. I was not within hearing range, but I could easily tell that they were joking and giggling when they exited. Instead of leaving, they sat on the bench in front of the store. Each of them took some items from the Victoria's Secret bag and dropped them into a Walmart bag. They discarded the Victoria's Secret bags into the trash can placed at the end of the bench and then proceeded to walk down the mall towards the exit. They were still giggling as they left. It took me less than a minute to get down the escalator and over to the waste container. I didn't even try to be discreet. I just took off the top of the can and reached in. I took them all, without replacing the top on the trash can. I guess that was an inconsiderate thing to do. Chuckle, chuckle. I waited until I got out to the car to look inside the bags. I don't know what I was looking for because they had removed whatever it was that they had bought. I also didn't know which bag was which, but inside each of them were a few sales handouts and a receipt. They had each bought 2 pairs of baby doll sleepers. One bill was for $65 and the other for $72. They were both paid for with cash. Now, Doreen never pays cash for anything. It all goes on the credit cards. Needless to say, she had gotten my attention. I didn't want to jump to any conclusions until I had a chance to confront her. Actually, I wasn't going to confront her but rather to let her have an opening to explain the purchases. I had to conclude that they were bought specifically for her upcoming trip, which Bobby and I were not going on. On the drive back to work, I saw dark clouds on the horizon, but the sun was still shining. I was sulking at my desk while trying to figure out where I had gone wrong when Malcolm James walked in. "Mr. Ellison, I sense that something is wrong. Is it a problem that I should be aware of?" "No, Mr. James, it is not a problem that should even concern you. Everything is fine with the floor and with the work. You have nothing to concern yourself with." I motioned for him to sit. He was smiling but still had a look of anxiety on his face. We sat in silence for a few moments. "Mr. James, where in Jamaica are you actually from?" "I am from Falmouth, but I spent most of my time in the Montego Bay area." "Why does this interest you?" I paused for a short while and rocked back in my chair. "Do you have any friends in the Montego Bay area?" I have lots of acquaintances but only a few friends. I also know a few people there who are not very friendly. In fact, that is why I find myself here at this time. I reached into my bottom desk drawer and got out a bottle of Jack Daniels and 2 glasses. The glasses were not what you would call clean, but they were definitely usable. Malcolm James did not refuse when I pushed the filled glass in his direction. Is it a money problem? He sipped and smiled. Yes, it is. Not much, only $10,000 US, but enough to impel me to seek safer surroundings. He noticed that I was smiling, and I think that he knew that it was not because of his situation but because of what I was contemplating. I get the feeling that Mr. Ellison needs my help and is trying to figure out how we can benefit each other. Am I correct? I thought it was funny that he referred to me in the third person and laughed a little. Mr. James, are any of your friends or acquaintances of disreputable character? Now he was laughing. Of course, Mr. Ellison. They all are. We were both smiling as I filled the glasses a second time. We sat quietly for what seemed like several minutes but might have been less. Tomorrow, Mr. James. Tomorrow we will help each other. He smiled again as he got up to leave, and I noticed a gold tooth on the right side toward the rear. I thought it was a little ominous. It was family dinner that night. Ariel let everyone know that she could start a summer session at Duke if she could leave within a week. Doreen wasn't thrilled with the idea but was outvoted. Roger had decided that he wanted to complete a year at the Marine Military Academy in Harlingen, Texas, before starting college. I had previously rejected the idea because of the expense, but tonight I was feeling a little different. Doreen gave me an odd look when I supported Roger's idea but didn't say anything. After the kids left the table, I asked her about her day. Cora and I got the last few things that we needed for the trip. I got the cutest little flip-flops. We decided not to take a camera because we were worried about losing it. We each got new swimsuits, 2-piece ones, but a little on the modest side. We are not young, you know. I smiled a little at the way she was chatting. She was nervous, and when that happens, she has a tendency to talk too much. If I let her rattle on, she might eventually trip herself up, but I already got the answer I was looking for. She said nothing at all about the trip to Victoria's Secret and didn't even hint at it. She was still talking, but I was no longer paying attention. She finally realized what she was doing and stopped. It was too late. She gave it away without even admitting anything. It would have been so easy to confront her, but that would have accomplished nothing. There was a lot more going on than a trip to a fancy store. Doreen was fairly quiet for the rest of the evening. I could tell that she felt a little uncomfortable about her talk session. Any further discussion on her part would have just made it worse. Doreen was setting up the DVR to record her programs while she was gone, while I started checking out tuition fees and her total assets. It was not a pretty picture. I would need at least $555,000 a year for Ariel, and the one high school year for Roger would be $34,000. I decided to prepay 4 years for Ariel but just 1 year for Roger. That would leave me with less than $50,000 in the bank. I could figure out Roger's college program later. Hell, he didn't even know where he was going to go. I gathered up all the addresses that I would need and prepared letters and envelopes. All I would need to do the next day would be to make a trip to the bank and make a few phone calls. Maybe I was rushing things. Maybe there was no problem. All I had to base my concern on was a trip to the mall and a bad feeling in my stomach. Doreen had already gone to bed when I decided to call Bobby. He always stayed up to watch Letterman. Bobby, are you still up? Yes, sir. Brother John, what can I do for you? Is Letterman on yet? Nope, 10 minutes to go. Talk fast. Bobby, I don't mean to get you upset or anything, but has Cora been acting funny lately? Don't jerk me around, John. What is going on? You know, little stuff that just doesn't seem kosher. You mean like the Tupperware parties and Magic Chef parties? Maybe. Why are they funny? Cora and Doreen have started going to these things on a regular basis, along with book club meetings and card parties. Yeah, so what? Cora doesn't read much, she hates to play cards, and she never buys anything at those damn parties. Did you say anything to her? Hell no. I didn't want to take the chance of ruining my marriage. What do you mean, John? If I accuse her of something or even hint at it, and I was wrong, my life would be a living hell. I'm not saying a damn thing until I have a little more to go on. Did she show you what she bought while she was shopping today? Yeah, a swimsuit, a pair of sandals, and a floppy hat. Why? I just wondered. There was an awkward lull in the conversation, which I finally broke. Bobby, does that guy you know from high school still work in the personnel department at Continental Claims Associates? Yeah, I think so. Why? Could you call him tomorrow and ask him if any other company employees are taking vacations at the same time Cora is? John, what the hell is going on? I don't know. I just know that something is not right. Doreen doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities to meet guys, but Cora does. This trip to Jamaica seems a little fishy to me. Maybe I should just talk to Cora. No way, Bobby. Whatever you do, don't say anything to her. Okay. I'll call him. Gotta go now. Letterman is starting. I slept on the couch that night, no specific reason, but I just didn't feel like crawling into bed with Doreen. I closed out 2 money market accounts and cashed in 3 certificates of deposit. I called all of the appropriate agencies at Duke and the Harlingen Military School before getting the cashier's checks drawn up. What wasn't needed for tuition and such, I took in cash. I left $1,000 in the checking account. Before lunch, I had 4 years of Ariel's college paid for and a year of fancy military school for Roger. As I was leaving the post office, I got a call from Bobby. John, you were right. About what? All of it. Well, Curry in the personnel office told me that Cora has been playing patty cakes with one of the auditors, a guy named Calvin Bostic. It is common knowledge in the company, and I don't know why I haven't heard about it before. Anyway, Calvin and a friend of his, Addison Eberly, are taking vacations at the same time that Cora is. Damn it. I was afraid of something like that. Can you get me any info about those guys other than their names? Got it already, John. I'll send you a couple of company ID photos over the phone. The guy with the glasses is Bostic. Thanks, Bobby. Hey, bro, I'm sorry about all of this. Don't apologize to me, John. It's my wife who got Doreen into this mess. Bobby, meet me after work at the peanut bar. We have things that we need to talk about. Gotcha. Good afternoon. It must be nice to be the boss, Malcolm James said with a smile as I walked into my office. I just smiled back without saying anything as Gloria, my secretary, brought in 2 cups of coffee. Malcolm waited patiently as I downloaded the 2 photos from my phone to the computer. In 2 minutes, he had a hard copy in his hand and a photo of each man on his own phone. There was a wicked little grin on his face as he sat in anticipation of what was coming. Can we get down to business now, Mr. James? Most certainly, Mr. Elliott. It took less than an hour to come to an agreement and settle on a price. He was happy, and I was happy. However, Bobby might not be too pleased when I told him what a share of all this was going to cost. Bobby dropped a small bomb on me when we met after work. He had decided that he was going to be visiting our Uncle GR in Tennessee for an indefinite period of time. Bobby, that is a little drastic under the circumstances, don't you think? I was awake all last night thinking about things. Today, I made a half-dozen calls to people to verify my suspicions about Cora's activities. It's not too drastic, John. If anything, it's a little too late. Sorry, Bobby. I never realized. It appears that I didn't have a clue about what was going on in my own marriage either. What is wrong with us, John? Why did they do this, and how come we didn't see it coming? For the next few moments, we sat quietly, eating peanuts and sipping on warm beer. I ordered a couple more cold ones and smiled at my brother. How can I help you out, Bobby? What can I do? Okay, John. I got a small trailer lined up. The boys and I are going to pack up most of what we will be needing, and we should be in Tennessee by the end of the next day. What about your job? You love the job. I know it was a hard choice to make. I already called Grant. He said I won't have any trouble getting some type of work there. Whatever it is, it won't have all the fancy union benefits, but the boys and I will be able to get by. I'll be taking all of our savings and investments with us when we go. What are you going to tell Cora? I'm going to leave her a note that we went to Alaska. I always talked about going there, so she might be gullible enough to buy it, at least for a while. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Bobby, you owe me $4,000. What? What the hell do I owe you $4,000 for? You've got to trust me, Bobby. It's money well spent, and it's better if you don't know any more than that. Will I get it back? Probably not. Crap. I decided to give Doreen another chance to come clean after supper that evening. The results were no better. This time, she did happen to mention that since her cell phone wouldn't work there, she was going to leave it at home. She told me to just assume everything was okay unless I heard otherwise. If there was a problem, she promised she would find a way to let me know. Since Doreen was going to be spending the evening packing for her trip, I decided to take the kids out for a night of bowling. The suggestion was met with a lot of groans and eye-rolling, which stopped as soon as I shook my head and drew my finger across my lips. We did go to the bowling alley, but we never did bowl. It was not something that I wanted to do, but something that I had to do. At this point, I didn't actually know anything, but I did feel strongly about what was going on and needed to take action. I explained to the kids what was going on. Ariel seemed to understand, but Roger was not happy. Both of the kids were excited about the school preparations, especially Roger, who had no idea up to this point that I had set everything up. Ariel was ready to leave as soon as possible and was tickled pink when I told her she could take Doreen's Volvo. She was not expecting a car at all. I thought it was the fair thing to do. Roger was going to be staying with my parents until arrangements could be made for him to go to Harlingen. He would probably still be here when Doreen returned from her vacation. We would just have to wait and see if that caused any problems. The kids would be able to store all of their personal belongings at my parents' place for as long as necessary. I was not sure what I would be doing. Bobby and I both arrived at the departure terminal at the same time. We didn't talk but did nod to each other from 50 feet away. Cora and Doreen were laughing and giggling as they entered the facility together. They did remember to turn, wave, and smile at both of us before leaving the platform. Bobby and I did not smile back. When I arrived at work, I was greeted by a bevy of government cars and a few police units. This was a scenario that I had been through before, so I just tightened up my belt and walked in. Gloria was waiting for me with a smile on her face. She had also seen this before. The work floor was almost entirely empty. There were a few Haitians milling around, but there were no Jamaicans or Dominicans to be seen anywhere, including Malcolm James. Gloria had already called the lawyers. I spent the next 30 minutes talking gibberish to several government suits but was not able to determine if they were local, state, or federal. It didn't really matter. The legal beagles finally showed up, and Gloria and I were able to slip away with no problem. We were having coffee at Starbucks when Bobby called. "John, I just heard on the radio that the feds hit your place. What's going on? Is everything okay?" "It's fine, Bobby. The company has control over everything. Gloria and I are enjoying a hot cup right now. How about at your end? I took care of things at work and at the bank. The boys and I are going to be packing for the rest of the day, and we'll be leaving tomorrow morning." "Sounds good, brother. Do you need anything?" "We're fine, John. By the way, I also saw a lawyer. The divorce paperwork has been started." "Sorry to hear that, but I think we both knew it was coming. They're going to serve the papers the day she gets back. I'll be long gone. I guess I'll end up having to pick them both up at the airport when they get home. I'll just drop Cora off at the house. Is that okay?" "Sounds great to me. I guess they are there by now, all settled in their rooms. Are you sure you don't want to let me in on what's going on? No way, brother. The less you know, the better. I don't think anything will happen until tomorrow. You can think about it while you're cruising down Route 81. No sooner had I hung up the phone than I got a call from Pierce Donovan, our division chief and the man who sets up the new operations. Gloria and I were summoned to headquarters in King of Prussia the next morning. Gloria seemed happy about it, but I had some reservations. I can't explain it because I really liked the job. I made arrangements to pick Gloria up the next morning and headed home. Ariel already had her car packed for her trip. I would have really liked to go with her, but she assured me that she was ready to take care of herself. Under the circumstances, I didn't argue with her. Most of her things were in cardboard boxes in the garage to go to my parents' place for storage. Roger was packing almost all of his things for storage. The military school would be providing him with everything he needed. They better, for the price they were charging. Dad was going to be driving him down so he could visit a few old Air Force buddies in San Antonio. Mom was very adamant about not wanting to make that trip. I was proud of the way the kids were handling things. They had a better idea of what they wanted to do than I did. I decided to stay with Mom while Dad was traveling. That meant I had a lot of packing to do as well. We did not receive a call from Doreen, and I hadn't really expected one. She had carefully set the stage by explaining that she would only call if there was a problem. The kids and I went to CCE for pizza and picked up a couple of bundles of boxes and more packing tape on the way home. It was 2 o'clock in the morning before I had all of my things sorted and ready to go. Dad was coming over in the morning with his pickup to collect everything. It would probably take at least 3 trips. At least it would keep the kids busy while I was at work. The next company operation was going to be started up in Lancaster. The bigwigs were a little disappointed when I declined this one. I did, however, recommend Gloria because she knew as much about running things as I did and was ready to move up. As soon as we left the office, she was on the phone to her husband to relay the good news. It would almost double her salary. She was one happy girl. I had no idea what I would be doing. On the way home, I got a call from Bobby. He and the boys were just getting into Tennessee. He actually seemed happy. I felt good for him. The kids were staying with Mom and Dad, but I decided to stay one more night at the house to get all of the loose ends tightened up. I was just about finished for the evening when the phone rang. Ah, Mr. Ellison. It's nice to see that you are home. Welcome, my friend. Where the hell are you? I am home, of course, taking care of business as you requested. And you have international calling with your cell phone. Of course. Everybody here does. I assume you have good news for me? It was a statement posed as a question. Most certainly, sir. In fact, things went far easier than I had anticipated. You can rest assured that all of your problems have been taken care of. Thank you. You're a true friend, Mr. Ellison. I only did what you paid me to do. Why do I feel that it's more than that? Be careful, Mr. Ellison. You do not want to fall into that trap. We were both laughing for no particular reason. Mr. Ellison, I was sorry to hear about your trouble at work. I hope that you have survived any repercussions. I'm fine. I'm also curious as to how you got all of your people out of the way. I have friends in the industry, Mr. Ellison. I guess I should have let you know, but I decided against it. I was able to take care of all my people, but some of the Haitians were a little hard-headed. I think it all worked out well. What are your plans now? I think I will be taking a short break until I can get a few personal problems worked out. Mr. Ellison, remember this number and stay in touch. I think I might have something that you will be interested in. That would be nice. I'll plan to do that. I still had 2 more beers to finish before getting some sleep. It would be 3 more days until Doreen and Cora returned from their vacation. After the first day, I found myself doing redundant things. I did stop and see a lawyer, Glenn Roost, to find out exactly what my obligations would be if I filed for a divorce. There wasn't enough money left to open up an offshore account or anything like that. I decided not to shut off the utilities. I was just not going to be paying for anything anymore. My credit rating was going to take a big hit, but I figured I could handle it. The next morning, Ariel left for North Carolina in her new Volvo. Her summer session would be starting in 10 days. Mom and Dad gave her a little nest egg to help her get settled in. Roger and Dad decided they would take off the same day Doreen was getting back. Roger wanted to avoid any unpleasant confrontations, and I thought this was a good idea. It appeared they had a few stops planned on the way, including some Memphis barbecue and New Orleans gumbo. Everybody except me seemed to be happy. I was trying like hell not to wallow in my misery. The only thing that seemed to help was beer. Later that night, I got another call from Malcolm. Unfortunately, it was on my cell phone. "Mr. Ellison, is anything happening on your end?" "What do you mean?" "The gentlemen in question have been missing for 2 days now, and the ladies have not notified the hotel personnel or the local police." "Did they possibly report this to your local authorities?" "Not that I know of." "Why haven't they contacted any officials in the immediate area?" "My people tell me that they seem to be baffled or confused about what to do. They're definitely not having a good time. My guess is that they are afraid that if they draw attention to the situation, they will expose themselves as— I don't know what the proper term to use is. I don't want to offend you in any way." "So they're doing nothing?" "It appears that they are constantly looking for the gentleman to show up and hoping that things will resolve themselves. I am afraid they will be greatly disappointed." "Mr. James, what are you suggesting that I do?" "As I see it, there is nothing that you can do. We have to wait for them to decide to report it, either here or back in the States when they return. That would be awkward. What local authorities would they go to report a crime that took place in Jamaica?" "Mr. Ellison, I believe you have created quite a dilemma for your wife. I have a feeling that she wishes she had never taken this trip. No matter what she does, she will be in trouble. Thank you for the call, Mr. James. I am going to sleep with a smile on my face tonight. I will call you if anything changes." Morning brought a lot of anxiety. I didn't sleep as well as I thought I would. The first thing I did was make a quick call to Bobby to see if he had heard anything from Cora. He had no contact from his wife either. The trip for him and the boys went well, and they were all comfortably settled in. Before hanging up, Bobby mentioned that he was going to be turning off his cell phone for the next 2 weeks. He told me to call Grant's number if I had to get in touch with him. It was the longest day of my life. I checked and double-checked the house to make sure that I had taken care of everything. I went to see the lawyer again and filled out an information form so that I could file for the divorce with no problems at the appropriate time. I gave him a power of attorney to handle the separation and any other actions for me. Just on a whim, I gave him a hefty retainer for any possible future repercussions from the Jamaica fiasco. I was a little worried that I might have gone too far. On the drive back to my parents' home, I realized that none of the concerns I had were directly related to my marriage. Sure, everything I had done was the result of Doreen's infidelity, but the breakup did not actually seem to bother me. Somewhere along the line, I had resolved myself to accepting it. There was a bit of serenity that came with that realization. Knowing that the kids were not going to suffer any great trauma made things a lot easier. I don't know why I didn't feel worse. I felt betrayed but not humiliated. That was strange because it was not what I had ever expected. Roger and Dad left with the rising sun. Roger got to drive the first leg of the trip. Mom insisted on packing a lunch for them, but I secretly think they were looking forward to a week or so of junk food. I had about 6 hours to kill before the plane arrived back from Jamaica. I got to spend some rare one-on-one time with Mom. She was supportive, but just to be on the safe side, she did not say anything against Doreen. They had actually gotten along fairly well over the years, and I think Mom was sad to see what had transpired. I didn't park the car and go in to help them. I simply waited for them to come out of the terminal with their bags. I had to move the car twice, but just circled and came back. "John, why didn't you come in to help us get our bags? It's a damn hassle parking the car, and I figured this would be easier all around." "John, where's Bobby?" Cora noticed that her husband had not come and felt obligated to inquire. He and the boys are tied up. I told him that I would drop you off at the house in a few minutes. We were on the way. No one was talking for the first few miles. The silence was quite obvious. Doreen seemed to be occupied looking out the side window, and Cora sat in the back, trying to be inconspicuous. Well, are you going to tell me about the trip? What you did, where you went, did you have anything good to eat? You two are awfully quiet for just returning from a tropical vacation. It was a long flight, John. To tell you the truth, we are exhausted. I just want a hot shower and a soft bed. That's it. That's all you have to say after 5 days? I'll tell you all about it tomorrow, okay? Since she was back to looking out the window, she didn't see me smiling to myself. The rest of the trip home was silent. It would have been easy to push the envelope a little, but I was having enough fun just watching them squirm. Since I had not heard anything from Malcolm, I had to assume they did not report the missing men to anyone. I wondered what they did with their luggage. Interesting. I dropped Cora off at their house and, 10 minutes later, pulled into our driveway. Doreen looked at me with an odd expression when I removed her bags from the car and set them on the grass instead of carrying them into the house. As I was getting back into the car, she finally spoke. John, where are you going? Aren't you coming into the house? What about my bags? I have to run right now, darling. I'll call you later. She looked so bewildered, standing there watching me drive away. I would have loved to see her face when she discovered that I had actually moved out of the house. Of course, she wouldn't have had much time to dwell on it because Cora was probably on the phone by now. John, Doreen has called 3 times already. She keeps asking me what is going on, and I keep trying to avoid answering her. John, you know I am no good at that kind of stuff. I don't like what happened, but I don't want to be in the middle of it either. You're going to have to talk to her. Sorry, Mom. The next time she calls, I'll take it. Did she ask about the kids at all? No, she was sort of babbling about an empty house and a problem that Cora seemed to be having. I didn't try to give her an explanation. I just put her off. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and got comfortable in the easy chair by the phone. It was only a 10-minute wait for the next call. John, what the hell is going on? Can you be a little more specific? What are you doing over at your parents' house? Where are the kids? I would appreciate some answers. What the hell is wrong? Ariel left for school. She wanted to get settled so she could take a few summer sessions. Everything is fine, you don't have to worry about her. Why couldn't she have waited until I got back? What was the big hurry? I don't know. I guess she was anxious. All of Roger's things are gone. Where is he? Dad and Roger are on their way to Texas. He's finally getting to go to one of those military schools he's been nagging us about. Since he's going to be gone for at least 5 years, he put all of his stuff in storage, like Ariel did. Why didn't you discuss this with me? I am their parent too. You completely left me out of everything. That is not fair. Yeah, I know. Life sucks. What does that mean? You have no reason to get sarcastic. What the hell are you doing at your parents' house? Did you move out too? Bingo. Jackpot. You figured it out. Yes, I moved out. You have the house all to yourself. There was no quick retort. I don't know how long the silence was, but it seemed like minutes. I waited patiently for her next move. Cora called. She said that Bobby and the twins were gone. He left a note saying they went to Alaska. Do you know anything about that, John? Yeah, he told me a little bit. Doreen hadn't mentioned the divorce papers that Bobby said were going to be served on his wife. I could only assume that it had not been done yet. John, what brought all this on? Tell me something. I try to stay out of Bobby's life, Doreen. All I know is that he mentioned a guy named Calvin Bosk. Do you know him or anything about him? This time the silence was a lot longer. I waited for some type of response. I'm sure that she was thinking that if Bobby knew about Calvin, then I must know about Addison. John, I am not feeling too good right now. I am tired and confused. I need to get some rest and think things over. Can you come by the house tomorrow? Sure, darling. I have plenty of time. Oh, by the way, I think you should know that I also lost my job. I am now officially unemployed. A few seconds later, the phone went dead. My mother was not happy. I was in no hurry to face Doreen. I arrived at the house about 10 a.m. It would have to be done eventually. Cora was there. John, we know what you did. It appeared that Doreen would be the designated spokesperson. Can you explain it to me? Don't be a smartass. It doesn't suit you. I decided not to respond to that. Cora contacted Worry. You and Bobby knew about Calvin and Addison? Well, Bobby told me everything, and Bobby told you. You can't deny it and you can't hide it. So who is this guy Addison? How come you never mentioned him to me? John, you were trying to be cute again. You know perfectly well who Addison is. You also knew that Calvin and Addison were going on the trip to Jamaica with Cora and me. Everything that she said was accurate, so I saw no reason to argue with her. Neither one of you made an attempt to stop us from going on that trip. You both knew we were going to a tropical island with 2 men, and you did nothing to halt it. What kind of husbands react that way? It was like you didn't care. Things were getting humorous now. Doreen was carefully shifting the blame for the affair from the cheating wives to the indifferent husbands. She noticed me smiling, and her tone immediately changed. It is not funny. You, 2 good men are dead now because of you. You could have said something, you could have stopped it. But no, you had to go and have them killed. You didn't do it yourself, but we know damn well that you arranged it. Did you report this? What do you mean? When did you realize that they had been killed? Who did you notify? No one. We couldn't tell anybody. If we had, then you and Bobby would have discovered what we had done. We couldn't take the chance. So you left Jamaica without informing the authorities that the 2 men who were with you had been killed. I think somebody is going to be pissed. Both women just sat and stared at me. I was still smiling. So, my loving wife, what are you going to do now? We are going to the police station and report it. It has to be done. And pray tell me, just how are the local police going to handle a murder that happened in Jamaica? By the way, do they have the bodies or the murder weapons? There are no bodies. You were too clever for that, weren't you? I don't know what I ever did to deserve this, Doreen, but you go to the police and tell them the whole thing. Make sure that the report shows exactly why the 4 of you went to Jamaica and what you were intending to do there. I'll need that information for the divorce action. You asshole. Cora took advantage of my comment to chime in. Bobby had me served with papers last night. You knew that, didn't you? You were laughing to yourself all the way home from the airport, weren't you? Yeah, he did mention something like that before he left. I watched as Cora stormed out of the room. I couldn't tell if she was crying or just really pissed off. I stood up and walked towards the door. John, I am sorry. It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. Doreen's voice had softened. How was it supposed to turn out? I waited for a few moments and got no answer. Doreen, can you at least give me some sort of explanation as to why you did this? I waited a few moments while she gathered her thoughts. The kids were grown, and you were working all the time. My life had become drab and uninteresting. Cora had the same problem, and she said she solved it by making a few male friends outside of the house. A few male friends? Don't interrupt, John, or I won't be able to get through this. I decided that it was worth a chance, so I had her fix me up with Addison. So, was it worth it? I watched her squirm a little before answering. Actually, John, yes, it was worth it. It was fun and exciting. I can't lie to you, I enjoyed every minute up until I met Addison. You were the only guy that I had ever been with. I would never consider leaving you to be with him, but I always had a good time when the two of us were together. So I was just a big joke? It wasn't like that, John. I was not trying to replace you or make fun of you. I was just attempting to make my life a little more interesting. I really didn't need to hear any more. I turned and walked out of the door. I went to Wendy's for lunch. It was just before noon the next day when Detective Danny Green came to see me. He allowed me to drive my own car to the station. I think he did that so he wouldn't have to drive me back. He did not seem too concerned about my showing up. We talked for 3 hours. I finally called Glenn Ross. He got everything settled so that I could leave and also got copies of Doreen's statement about the alleged murder. Her certified comments about the reason for the trip were going to be enough for the divorce papers. Detective Green seemed to be baffled. He said he would have to contact the Montego Bay Police and Jamaican authorities before he could arrive at any course of action. I am totally ignorant about all the terms used to describe the different levels of killing someone and what proof is required for each one. He was trying to explain it to me, but I blocked it out. Late that night, I got another call from Malcolm James. It was short, very short. Tomorrow, Mr. Ellison. Tomorrow will be a glorious day. Tomorrow came, and nothing happened until about 2 p.m. when I got a call from Detective Green. He was sort of laughing as he talked, which I found unnerving. Mr. Ellison, watch the 5 o'clock local news this evening and the 6 o'clock national news. I think that you will find it interesting. It was a short news blurb, but as Detective Green said, it was interesting. 2 local men were found wandering down a dirt road in the hills about 60 miles south of Montego Bay, Jamaica. The men claimed that they had been kidnapped and held for ransom at a goat farm in the mountains. They managed to escape early that morning and make their way toward town, where they were rescued. The national news was basically the same, except it had pictures of the 2 men and mentioned their names. A short while later, I got another call from Detective Green. He asked me to come in the next morning so we could discuss the circumstances surrounding the incident. I thought that was mighty generous of him. Mom thought the whole thing was hilarious, and I think she even winked at me. I slept well that night. As I went into Detective Green's office, I saw Doreen and Cora being escorted into the same interrogation room where I had previously been. I was sure they were going to have a lot of fun the rest of the day. Mr. Ellison, I am not sure that you were completely innocent concerning this affair, but I see your involvement from a far different perspective now, he said, actually smiling when he said that. I couldn't help but return the expression. As I said before, I am completely innocent of anything to do with the disappearance of those 2 men. I thought he was going to burst out laughing, but instead, he offered me a cup of coffee. It appears, Mr. Ellison, that Mr. Bostic and Mr. Eberly made a midnight excursion from their vacation compound to purchase a little local weed, ganja by name. 5 minutes after they left the hotel, they were kidnapped, tied up, and taken on an hour's drive over rough mountain roads. This is all their version, you understand. I sipped the hot coffee that one of the uniformed officers brought into the office and smiled with a little nod. Both men were stripped of all their clothing and locked in a goat pen that just happened to have bars on the doors and windows. The next morning, they were informed that a ransom demand for $110,000 each had been delivered to the ladies who had accompanied them to the hotel. They would not be released until the ransom had been paid. Detective Green stopped for a moment and tasted some of the machine coffee. It was terrible, but he seemed to be used to it. Detective Green, I don't believe that my wife or my sister-in-law had access to that kind of money. Apparently not. The following day, Mr. Bostic and Mr. Eberly were told that the ransom demand had been dropped to $5,000 each and that this was presented to both with Mrs. Ellison. The coffee was actually tasting a little better by this time. The next day, the price was $3,000 each, and on the day that the ladies departed to come home, the price had been dropped to $1,000 for both men. I can only assume that the ransom was never paid. Oh, it gets better than that, Mr. Ellison, much better. He motioned to silently inquire if I wanted more coffee, but I declined. That night, the men conveniently overheard their captors talking. Since the ransom had not been paid, the kidnappers decided they were going to have to kill both of them in the morning. Luckily, they discovered that one of the windows in the hut was unlocked. I found it hard to control myself at that point, and my host was having the same difficulty. We managed to keep it down to muffled snickers. In a heroic effort, they broke free from their confinement and made a mad dash for freedom down the mountain with no shoes and no clothes. I swear that if it had not been such a serious situation, both of us would have burst out laughing. We took a moment to contain ourselves and then started up again. Mr. Ellison, neither your wife nor your sister-in-law ever got a ransom demand. Isn't that amazing? Is that a question or a comment? Now both of us were actually laughing, but very quietly so as not to attract attention. Seriously though, Mr. Ellison, I am sure that you had some input into this entire fiasco. However, I don't see any reason for us to pursue anything at this end. Well, that is good news. Can I consider this case closed, or should I be prepared for something popping up in the future? If it is closed as far as I am concerned, your wife and sister-in-law, however, have a few more questions to answer about the charges they made against you and your brother. Our legal team is reviewing their statements pretty closely, just in case. Doreen and Cora were still in the interrogation room as I left the building. My wife saw me as I walked by and tried to make some sort of gesture. I pretended that I didn't see her and kept walking. It was a front-page story in the local newspaper, and both Doreen and Cora were mentioned by name. I am sure they will be getting a lot of questions about that from all of our friends and relatives. I stopped at a Taco Bell for lunch on the way home. That evening, I got another call from Malcolm. "How are things at your end, Mr. Ellison?" "Couldn't be better, my friend. I am very impressed." "Thank you." "I always do my best, Mr. Ellison. A few days ago, I mentioned the possibility of a position here that might suit you. Do you think you might be interested?" "I would be interested in discussing it." "Fine. There will be a ticket waiting for you at the Jamaica Airlines counter tomorrow morning. Don't worry, it will be a round-trip ticket." Malcolm was laughing on the other end, a wicked little laugh. 6 weeks later, I was completely relocated to Falmouth, Jamaica. It appears that Malcolm James had many friends who had a lot of money that needed to be invested. They bought an all-inclusive resort facility that had fallen on hard times. Since 90% of the clientele were from either North America or Europe, they wanted a man of my stature to be the responsible person in authority. Yes, I sold out. I was now in the position of posing as a front or a shill, so to speak. Although I was required to actually set up and manage the facility, I still reported to a clandestine group who wished to avoid any and all publicity. I was well paid and well compensated. It was an interesting position. I had a lady working with me named Mara, who was wanted by the Finnish authorities for the murder of her philandering husband. As long as she stayed in Jamaica, she was safe. She was in charge of all the recreation events and advertising. Most of the other employees were locals who, for some reason, seemed to have excellent work ethics. Many of them, I discovered, were hired by Malcolm James. There were 3 different restaurants in the facility, and the prominent menu item at each of them was goat in some fashion. Doreen and Cora had been convicted of something somehow related to the incident, and they both received suspended sentences. I never even found out what the exact charges were. I heard that Calvin Bostic and Addison Eberly both accused Doreen and Cora of refusing to pay their ransom. They never believed the story that no ransom demands were ever made. I think those relationships died rather quickly. 5 months after relocating, my divorce was finalized. Time passes rapidly when you're having fun. 2 years have gone by. Ariel is doing great at Duke, and Roger is now at Texas A&M on a full scholarship. Doreen keeps in touch with them 3 or 4 times a month by cell phone. Cora tracked Bobby down in Tennessee and had him served with papers to get custody of the twins. A week later, Bobby and the boys were in Alaska. Marg and I moved in together. There is an odd excitement about sleeping with a woman who murdered her husband, sort of like bungee jumping. I had no further contact with Doreen until last week. "Mr. Ellison, I have good news and I have bad news," Malcolm said. Give me the bad news first. The Silver Star cruise ship arrived this morning, and your wife is on board with a gentleman friend. A chill went up my spine. What is the good news? A big grin came across his face, big enough to show the demonic gold tooth. The Jamaican authorities had her name on a special list. Since we are now using passports for all Caribbean travel, it was easy to flag her arrival. And what exactly does this mean? The former Mrs. Ellison has been detained, and charges are presently being prepared. It seems that her failure to report the kidnapping 3 years ago has been considered a criminal offense of some type. A lot of local officials were embarrassed by the whole situation, and they seemed more than eager to get a little payback. Damn, Malcolm. She didn't really do anything. I know that, and you know that, but that doesn't make it go away. What is her travel companion doing to help her? Nothing. When the police explained to him what had happened, he couldn't get back on the ship fast enough. I think he is planning on flying home. Doreen ended up in Kingston and was charged with several minor offenses. No suspended sentences here. Some low-level U.S. Embassy staff tried to intervene, but it was to no avail. She was sent to Fort Augusta for 1 year. It wasn't fair, but it seemed to be out of my hands. It was 3 months until I got up the courage to go see her. Malcolm had arranged for the visit beforehand. John, what are you doing here? It is so good to see you. How did you find out about this? She looked a little thinner and gaunt. Perhaps it was the lack of makeup and grooming. Doreen, I live here now, on the north side of the island. I've known about your problem for a while now. What? Why didn't you do something? You must know somebody here that can help me. What would you want me to do? Get me out of here, please. You can't imagine what this is like. I looked at her without speaking. I actually didn't know what to say. John, the guards are forcing me to provide favors for them, sexual favors. John, I am being forced or coerced to provide the male guards with sexual favors. Do I have to be more explicit? No, I think I understand. I'll see what I can do. We spent the next 30 minutes talking about the kids and what they were doing. When I left, I promised her again that I would see if I could help her. I know it doesn't all make sense. I should really be happy to see that the witch is being torched, but she was my wife for 20 years and the mother of my children. I explained the problem to Malcolm. He seemed a little confused at my concern for Doreen's well-being but promised to take care of things. As if by magic, Doreen became off-limits to the guards, and there would be no repercussions. I never verified this, but I had Malcolm's word, and that was good enough. The process was started to change her sentence to time served. 2 months later, I drove down to Kingston on the day that she was being released and scheduled to go home. As usual, some low-level embassy personnel were taking credit for getting her sentence commuted, but I knew better. I didn't get to talk to her, but we saw each other from afar. She was smiling, sort of, and wearing a powder blue maternity dress as she walked across the tarmac. I never saw her again and never intend to.